Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. It is Saturday, December 3rd, 2022, and I'm your host, John June. And of course, I got my guy, Greg Penniman, G Money. Greg, how are you feeling today?
Chilling, man. Chilling. Ready for week 13. Final stretch is here. We get that extra week as of last season, because of the new schedule. We have one more game, so it's another chance to get in the playoffs. So we got to make it happen.
Definitely another chance to get in the playoffs, or maybe one more chance to sweat it out, if depending on how you look at it, man. You got to hold on to that positioning, got to get some wins, got to close it out and get into the playoffs, because once you get in, anything can happen. In our league of extraordinary people, we have eight teams make the playoffs out of the 14 teams in the league, and so the one seed, we've seen the one seed lose to the 8 seed before, so anything is possible.
One seed never wins. No, the one seed never wins. It's a curse. It's an actual curse.
Yeah. Good thing they get a little something for coming in first place there. But let's talk about Thursday Night Football, man. And it was pretty Buffalo, if you had Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, you felt pretty good about this, the output there. New England really didn't compete. Their only touchdown of the game was scored by a defensive player that played on offense. So, or that got some playing time on offense, Marcus Jones there. So, definitely a boring game from that side. 24-10 was the final score. Greg, do you have any thoughts on Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, no, I mean, other than Josh Allen and Diggs doing what they do every week, I think you got to be excited for if you're a James Cook manager. That's really the takeaway here. 19 total touches, got 14 carries, 6 receptions. Like, that's awesome. That's what you want right there. And without the touchdown, he got pretty much a solid RB2 day with some, and almost got RB1 upside. So down the stretch, he could be a league winner. So all those people that held on, this is the time. It's best game of the season. I think that's the main takeaway.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest takeaway, and I'm glad you went with that, because did want to get into it a little bit with James Cook, because, like you said, he seized the opportunity yesterday, led the backfield in touches. Devin Singletary was spending a lot of time on the sideline. It was really the James Cook show, and like you said, had a very productive day, productive evening, and he's available in leagues, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is a guy who's definitely available. We were talking about trying to hold him, just for Thursday Night Football, and if we were going to make a roster move, he'd be the guy that we drop. But we're definitely not dropping him, not dropping him this time. But yeah, he's 23% rostered in Yahoo leagues. So
Yeah.
if you have some fab left over, like you said, this guy could be a league winner down the stretch. I would be willing. He's like a 90 to 100% of my fab kind of guy, just with the way that
Absolutely.
the way that they were feeding him yesterday. Just definitely somebody that you should look to get on your roster at this time.
Yeah, for sure. I think his upside as far as catching the ball is higher than Singletary's. So I think he's got, definitely more upside in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move off of this game. Not much else to discuss. Um, let's talk about some of these games. We're going to obviously cover every single game that isn't Thursday Night Football. So, yeah, let's Let's get to it, man. So first up, we've got the 7-4 New York Jets traveling to Minnesota to take on the 9-2 Minnesota Vikings. This game has a 45.5 point total, where the Minnesota Vikings are 3-point home favorites. In terms of injuries for Minnesota, left tackle Christian Darrisaw, he's out. Andrew Booth, the cornerback for Minnesota, he's placed on injured reserve. And then for the Jets, Michael Carter, the running back, is doubtful. He's unlikely to play. Cedric Ogbuehi, the right tackle, is doubtful. He's not expected to play. And then Ashton Davis, a special teamer and depth safety for the Jets, is out with a hamstring. Greg, where do you lean when it comes to this matchup?
I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna take the Jets to cover, and I'm gonna take the Jets to win. I think this is a good matchup for the Jets here, defensively and offensively. On their side, you already know Mike White, my streamer of the week. I think he's gonna continue his run here, continue what he's got to do for the Jets in a great matchup. We're saying Minnesota giving up, I think, the most passing yards per game to the quarterback position. So this is a solid matchup for him, and he's gonna get it to his weapons. Garrett Wilson has got some wide receiver one upside in this one, for sure. I think he's a borderline wide receiver one. Um, Zonovan Knight, I think should lead the way in touches and carries. Um, think both him and the running back situation there, he should be leading this. So I think he's got some RB2 strong RB2, some RB1 upside. Tyler Conklin should also be involved as well as a streaming tight end. And on the Minnesota side, I think it's there'll be opportunities for Kirk Cousins as well. I think I'm having in that lower QB1 range. Dalvin Cook should be who he is. Dalvin Cook, consistent RB1 production. Probably slight bump down, but Justin Jefferson should be a good matchup between him and the Jet secondary. I think he still get his, still rate him as a wide receiver one. And that's about it. I mean Adam Thielen had a great game last week. I think he should be back in that flex conversation.
Yeah, this is definitely. I mean, even if you're not a Jets fan or a Minnesota fan, this is probably one of the most intriguing games on the
Hmm.
weekend because the Minnesota has they're 9-2. They're playing for if they win this game, they essentially, or not essentially, they will in fact clinch their division. And so obviously, and the New York Jets have a lot to play for in terms of trying to lock up a wild card and potentially compete for first place in the division, though. So I'm going to take the over. Every Mike White game has gone over. I could see, these are
Whew.
both these are two good offenses. Um, and I could see a lot of points being scored. I mean, Minnesota's offense is good, right? And the Jets defense is obviously good, but I think, obviously, Justin Jefferson is a good weapon, and Dalvin Cook as well. So I think they can score some points, manufacture some offense, and then the Jets offense may not be as explosive as Minnesota, but the defense from Minnesota is not very good. So I think that creates some opportunities here for the over. So I'm going to take the Jets to cover as well because I think the matchups do have some matchups to their advantage, and the fact that they have the corner, or the corners that they have in their secondary could lead to limiting Justin Jefferson. And I will take the Jets to win. For in terms of the fantasy, Dalvin Cook, he's an RB1. I mean, his volume, his opportunities, they've been fantastic. Alexander Madison has not really been involved in the offense, so he's been a true workhorse in that Minnesota offense. Justin Jefferson, he's a wide receiver one. Kirk Cousins, he's going to be a QB2 for me. I think there's some other options that you could go to this week. I mean, Greg, prefer Kirk Cousins or Mike White in the same game?
Mike White.
Yeah, I'm there as well. Mike White, he's a QB1 for me. Going back to TJ Hawkinson, I think he's a tight end one. He probably has the best matchup here. Garrett Wilson, he's a wide receiver one as well. Tyler Conklin, my stream of the week, I think he has tight end one upside in this game. And then Bam Knight, Zonovan Knight. I think he, based on volume, Michael Carter being out, I think he's has some RB1 upside in this game. Uh, Elijah Moore and Davis, they're both intriguing flex options. I know people are probably out on Moore because the limited targets, but he is the third receiver, and if this game does have a little bit of a back and forth nature to it, and they have to score some points, I think that he's definitely involved as well as Davis. So it all depends on game script. But yeah, this should be an intriguing game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely looking to one of those Jets complimentary receivers.
Yeah, let's move on to this next matchup. The 3-8 Denver Broncos traveling to Baltimore to take on the 7-4 Baltimore Ravens. This game has a 38.5 point total, where the Baltimore Ravens are 8.5 point home favorites. There is expected to be rain in this game. In terms of injuries, running back J.K. Dobbins and safety Marcus Williams, they both return to practice as they're both on injured reserve, but they will be out of this game. Tylan Wallace, he's also out. Kyle Hamilton, he's questionable with a knee. And then for Denver, tight end Andrew Beck, he's out, as well as Jonathan Harris and Dakota Allen. Jerry Jeudy, he returned to practice on Friday, is expected to be a game time decision in this one. Cortland Sutton, he's questionable with an illness. KJ Hamler is out. And running back Mike Boone is eligible to return in this matchup, as he's been designated to return from the injury reserve with an ankle injury. So in this matchup here, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens to cover. I'll take the Baltimore Ravens to win. For Baltimore, Lamar's a QB1. Mark Andrews is a tight end 1. Gus Edwards is an RB2. And then for Denver, Cortland Sutton is a wide receiver 2 or 3. And then Lat Murray's a low end RB2. And that's it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you on the analysis and everything. Taking the under, taking Baltimore to cover, Baltimore to win. On Baltimore side, Lamar, Mark Andrews, those should be the guys. Of course, you're looking at. Mark Andrews probably won't have 2 straight unexpected games from him. I think he's gonna bounce back here. Gus Edwards, healthy, he's solid RB2 option. And then you're always banking on hopefully he gets a touchdown to help his day even more. But on the Denver side. Yeah, Cortland Sutton's been kind of the only steady Eddie for this team. Has been solid, in that wide receiver 2 category. Getting over about 60 yards in the last 3 games, so he's definitely been involved. So having that there, Lat Murray as well, been involved in the running game. But yeah, that's really the only 2 people I'm willing to touch on in this game for Denver.
Yeah, that's pretty easy analysis there.
Yeah.
Let's move on to this this next game, which I feel like it's going to be a similar trend here. The 3-7 Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Atlanta to take on the 5-7 Atlanta Falcons. That can't be 3-7. They're 4-7 Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Atlanta to take on the 5-7 Atlanta Falcons. This game has a 43.5 point total, where the Pittsburgh Steelers are 1.5 point road favorites in this one. This game is played in a dome, so there's no weather concerns there. And then in terms of injuries, Atlanta's okay. For Pittsburgh, Jalen Warren, who was a full practice all week, was cleared by the doctors to return, ends up on the injury report as questionable with a hamstring, while Najee Harris, who did not participate in practice Wednesday and Thursday, was limited on Friday, is not on the injury report with the oblique. And then Benny Snell was a DNP on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, Friday, and then is also not on the injury report with a knee injury. So I don't know what's going on with the Pittsburgh injury report, but seems like some shady stuff is happening. TJ Watt, he's questionable with a rib injury. And then cornerback Akila Weatherspoon, he's out with a hamstring. Craig, where are you going with this game?
I'm gonna take the under as well. I'm gonna take Pittsburgh to cover though. Pittsburgh to win. On Pittsburgh side, kind of the only people if Najee Harris is playing, I think you're playing him as a low end RB2. You're hoping he gets a touchdown, which he did before he got hurt in that game. They're gonna, if he's healthy, he's still gonna lead in carries and targets. So you put him out there. Pat Freiermuth has been a great tight end this year, continuing to play him even with 1 touchdown this year. He's been pretty solid. So you're playing him as a tight end 1. And George Pickens continues to show flashes every week. I think he's in that flex conversation, especially with the matchup. On the Atlanta side, though, it's really just I can possibly make a case. Drake London has the matchup of the year, like right now. Drake, Pittsburgh corners, been attacking them all year, pretty weak. Drake London, I think, has some flex intrigue.
Oh man, this game is so. All right, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Pittsburgh to cover. I'm going to take Pittsburgh to win. For Atlanta, Cordell Patterson, he's an RB2. For Pittsburgh, Najee Harris. I'm really not interested in the Atlanta offense. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't.
they haven't really thrown the football, and then Pittsburgh again, they're a much better defense with TJ Watt out there. So I'm not really going to Atlanta. Drake London, I know because I roster Drake London and our League of Extraordinary People, and I know it's green,
It
on
is. It's
the
very green.
it's very green. It says like ninth in terms in terms of the matchup there. But if you look at, just the last 3 weeks, they've allowed the 27th most PPR points to the wide receiver position in their last four matchups, rather, actually. So yeah, I'm not, I really don't have interest in Drake London or the rest of the passing attack there. For Pittsburgh, Najee Harris, I think you got to play him as an RB2. He's going to play. You definitely worry about the risk of re-injury and things like that, but he's been playing banged up all year. So, I think the matchup is good too. So I think you can roll him out there. Jalen Warren, I mean, if he goes, I had a lot of interest in him as an RB2 option. Just, some injuries this week. I definitely was looking for him to play in the League of Extraordinary People. I'm hurting at running back. So I think if he goes, he's an RB3. But Benny Snell could also end up filling that role as a change of pace running back for Najee Harris. But I agree with you, George Pickens. He has upside. However, I'm not. I mean, teams run the football more against Atlanta than they throw it, and maybe with Najee Harris banged up and Jalen Warren banged up, maybe they do that. But yeah, I think Pickens is as far as I'd be willing to go. Oh, Pickens and Fryermuth, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
Fryermuth
that's it.
is yeah. All right, let's move on to this next matchup. It seems like a juicy one. The 4-7 Jacksonville Jaguars travel to Detroit to take on the 4-7 Detroit Lions. This game has a 51.5 point total, where the Detroit Lions are 1.5 point home favorites. In terms of weather, well, this game is in a dome, so no concerns there. But in terms of the injuries for Detroit, center Evan Brown, he's out. Julian Aquara, he's also out, as well as the wide receiver Jameson Williams. And then for Jacksonville, Darrell Henderson is questionable. Zay Jones, the wide receiver, is questionable with a chest. Travis Etienne is questionable with a foot injury. In terms of the matchup here, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Jacksonville to cover, Jacksonville to win. For Detroit, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is the wide receiver one this week. I think last week I said he would finish as the wide receiver one. Potentially, he finished as the wide receiver 3. But I think, he's just been on a roll lately, and the matchup here is so nice. So we should continue to roll him out there. Jared Goff, he's my stream of the week, and I think a top 10 quarterback option this week. Jamal Williams, he's going to be an RB3 for me this week. Swift as well. I think he might have the higher upside in this higher scoring game. He had 8 targets last week against Buffalo. He's not on the injury report with the shoulder and the ankle. So I think, he's a guy that I think is going to have, be productive down the stretch here. DJ Shark, he's a wide receiver 4 in a revenge game. For Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, he's in a smash spot here. Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, they're both top 10 options in my opinion. Marvin Jones also getting a revenge game here. He's a wide receiver 4. And then Evan Ingram has a decent matchup here. I know he's your stream of the week, Greg. I think he's going to be a tight end 2 for me. And then Travis Etienne, he definitely has that upside. I think he's probably going to be a higher end RB2 if he can go, of course.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take Detroit to cover and Detroit to win. Definitely gonna be a back and forth game. I think this is probably one of the most exciting under 500 games you'll see for sure. Both teams. But on that Jacksonville side, do love Trevor Lawrence in this matchup. You got Detroit. Insert name here. He's going to attack them with all his people. Travis Etienne should dominate as well. He's got a solid matchup and should be in that borderline RB1 category. Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones. I think you got to jump on playing those guys. Zay Jones coming off the best game of the season so far. So I think both of them, default wide receiver twos, and both have some wide receiver one upside. And then Evan Ingram as well is, definitely going to be used in this game. I think it's going to be definitely back and forth for sure. On Detroit side, like Jared Goff as well, definitely a popular streaming option this week. Agree with you with the running backs. I think DeAndre Swift does get used a lot more in this game. Come off a solid game last week on Thanksgiving. Should continue to be better as he's healthier in a high scoring, fast paced matchup. Jamal Williams, you're playing as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver one, upside as well. And I think there's probably gonna be another receiver to pop up. I think Khalif Raven will probably be that person.
Yeah, good point, man. There's got to be some back and forth nature to this game for sure. Moving on to this next matchup, we get the 7-4 Tennessee Titans traveling to Philadelphia to take on the 10-1 Philadelphia Eagles. This game has a 44.5-point total, where the Philadelphia Eagles are 5.5-point home favorites. In terms of weather, it's expected to be okay. In terms of injuries for Philadelphia, safety CJ Gardner-Johnson, he is out. Robert Quinn, the defensive or the edge rusher, he's also out with knee. For Tennessee, Danico Autry, the defensive tackle, he's out. Elijah Molden, Cody Hollister, they're both out as well. Jeffrey Simmons, he's questionable with an ankle, and then Hassan Haskins is questionable with a hip. Greg, where do you lean with this matchup here?
With this game, I'm gonna take the over as well. I'm gonna take Tennessee to cover, but I'm gonna take Philly to win. Um, it should be a solid game. I think on Tennessee side, I think Derrick Henry, he's obviously, you're playing him. Better matchup, I think than people may think for sure. But Derrick Henry should be one of the top 5 options every week. As far as the receivers, Traylon Burks, I'm willing to play as part of the receiver I want in this offense. Continuing to gain momentum, so as a good flex option. And then on the Eagles side, Miles Sanders, and a good matchup here. RB2 category, strong RB2. The receivers though are both in the smash spot here. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. I think they should dominate in this matchup. So it's just one matter of who's going to be the one to really get his. Obviously, still waiting for that game where both of them kind of really go crazy on the defense. But I think both of them, I'm gonna rate them as strong wide receiver twos, and one should have the edge to possibly break that top 12. And Jalen Hurts, obviously, quarterback one, and Dallas Goedert out there, definitely tight end one. Sorry, Dallas
Well,
Goedert's not even out there, but yeah, even more
yeah.
bump for the receivers. But yeah.
Well, we did get good news for Dallas Goedert, though. He's not wearing that sling anymore. Is expected to be healthy by the time he's eligible to return off of the injured reserve, which I believe is week 15 against Jacksonville. So that'll be good news there. But in terms of the game, I have it the same way you do. I'm taking the over, taking Tennessee to cover, taking Philly to win. For Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts, he's a top 3 option at the position. Greg, we already know who has the edge between these two receivers.
Oh, revenge game. Right. Yeah.
Yo,
Sure.
AJ Brown, he's gonna drop 100 yards. Because that's guaranteed at minimum, bare minimum.
Great matchup.
Yeah, it's a fantastic matchup. So yeah, AJ Brown, wide receiver one in a revenge game of all revenge games. Devontae Smith, I think he's going to be a wide receiver too. But again, he's been seeing a decent amount of targets with Dallas Goedert out. Miles Sanders, he's an RB2. I think Quez Watkins makes an interesting option as a flex. They talked about on the broadcast last week about how they were making a concerted effort to get him more involved. And, especially with the Goddard injury. On the Tennessee side, Derrick Henry, he's an RB1. Traylon Burks, I agree with you. He's a wide receiver 2 in this matchup, has definite upside, especially if this game does go over and Philadelphia does score a ton of points. And then Austin Hooper, I think, has some tight end one intrigue. He's been more involved in the offense. They were talking in in that game on that broadcast about how Austin Hooper has been trying to get more of a relationship with Ryan Tannehill, and everywhere he's been, he's done that with the quarterback. And so I think he's definitely been more involved these last couple of weeks. And so if you're a desperate tight end trying to hold the fort while a guy like Dallas Goedert comes back, I think you can definitely go there, especially with them hurting or missing CJ Gardner Johnson. Chauncey Gardner Johnson. CJ Chauncey, same thing. That's his name. But yeah.
Like it for sure.
Let's move on to the next matchup here. Houston and Cleveland, the 4-7 Cleveland Browns traveling to Houston to take on the 1-9-1 Houston Texans. This game is a 47.5 point total, where the Houston Texans are 7-point home underdogs. This game is played in the dome, so there's no concerns there. In terms of injuries for Cleveland, tight end David Njoku, he's out with an injury to his other knee, not the knee that previously kept him out. So definitely not great there. And then for Houston, cornerback Derek Stingley, he's out with the hamstring. Wide receiver Brandon Cooks is out with a calf, and Rex Burkhead is questionable with a concussion. In this game, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Cleveland to cover. I will going to take Cleveland to win. For Cleveland, Deshaun Watson obviously making his first start of the season against the Houston Texans, his former team. And so this is a revenge game as well. He is a quarterback one this week. Amari Cooper is a high-end wide receiver 2. Nick Chubb, he is an RB1. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a wide receiver 3. And then for Houston, I know Pierce has been absolutely terrible, but I think based on the matchup, you could get away with playing him. It's gonna be a tough pill to swallow, but I think Cleveland's just been so bad against the run. They're so susceptible. So I think Pierce is definitely in play here. Nico Collins, with Brandon Cooks out, that's more targets for him. He was already in the top 12 of wide receivers over the last 4 weeks in terms of targets per game. So he's a wide receiver 3, but definitely has upside for more. Obviously with Cooks being out, like I said.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the under, take Cleveland cover, Cleveland to win. Definitely the revenge game set up here. Deshaun making his debut. You gotta expect. I think the transition should be seamless, especially with this easy matchup to start. So you're starting him, you're playing him, especially if you had him all year. You're not gonna keep him on the bench now at this point. Um, Nick Chubb is in a smash spot here. He should dominate. He could finish as the RB1 on the week. Mark Cooper also in a great spot here along with Donovan Peoples-Jones. But yeah, Mark Cooper should dominate as well as a wide receiver 1. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a strong flex option, especially without no David Njoku. So they should look to them more. On the Houston side, I'm still willing to play Dameon Pierce as RB2 category. I think he's been solid all year. I think he can has a longer leash than for what he's earned this year. And as far as the receivers, Nico Collins and both Chris Moore, I think have some intrigue, especially Chris Moore in deeper leagues. But yeah, Nico Collins, I'm leaning to is a good flex option.
Mike White or Deshaun Watson?
Because of the matchup, I mean, Nick Chubb should dominate. I think it would be a little capped a little bit for Deshaun. I'm gonna go with Mike White.
That's kind of what I'm thinking as well. I got to make a decision in Superflex League, and it's just like I feel like if you want a safe floor, it's definitely Deshaun.
Yeah, yeah,
But if you want a ceiling, I feel like you have to play Mike White.
yeah,
As crazy as it sounds.
yeah, man, yeah, man. Magic Mike White.
Let's move on to the this next matchup here, which I know is near and dear to Greg's heart. The 7-5 Washington Commanders travel to New York to MetLife to take on the 7-4 New York Giants. This game has a 40.5-point total, and the Washington Commanders are 1.5-point road favorites here. There's expected to be a little bit of rain in this game here. For the Giants, Joshua Aziadu is out with a neck injury. Um, Shane Lemieux is out with a toe. Darius Slayton, the wide receiver, is questionable with an illness. Tight end Daniel Bellinger
Hmm.
expected to return this week, potentially questionable with that eye injury that he suffered earlier in the year. For Washington, cornerback Benjamin St. Juste, he's out with an ankle. Wide receiver return man Dax Milne is out with the foot. Offensive guard Trey Turner is out with the knee/ankle. And then Chase Young is questionable with a knee injury here. Greg, where are you leaning when it comes to your G-men?
I think I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna take Washington to cover and Washington to win. Giants struggling right now, two straight L's. Commanders hot right now, and they're three straight wins. So definitely, both teams moving in opposite directions. But that Chase Young news really does help this team. Obviously, if he can come back and play, I think he is. So that's gonna wreak havoc for a player like Daniel Jones with a weak offensive line. On Washington side, Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson, I'm looking, towards those guys. And AG, I think, has the higher upside as an RB2. Brian Robinson, RB3 category. Terry McLaurin, strong wide receiver too in this matchup as well. Not really, I'm back and forth with Logan Thomas. He's very, very up and down this year. So I don't know if you could trust him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he can get some usage in this game. But on the Giants side, Saquon is starting him as a RB1. Daniel Jones, you can always again fall into that QB1 territory. Probably rate him as a high in QB2 with his legs, especially because there's literally no one to throw to now except Daniel Bellinger. If he's going to play, we don't even know if that's finalized, but if he is out there, I think he's a solid streaming option at the tight end position, and that's really it though.
Yeah, I'm with you, Greg. I'm taking the under here. I'm going to take Washington to cover, Washington to win. I mean, like you said, these teams are trending in opposite directions right now. I mean, Washington is going into their bye week at well, into this game before their bye week at 7-5. No one would have ever imagined how their season started that they would be
Hmm.
in this position with this record. Um, but that's what it is. What it is. And then the Giants, they started out 6-1, right?
Word.
And now they're 7-4 here. So this is definitely something that you definitely notice at this point in the season here, just how teams are playing. But in terms of the fantasy matchups here, Daniel Jones. I mean, obviously we say this every single week
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of
No.
his legs, he can finish as a QB1. Saquon, he's been a little disappointing recently. Um, and the matchup here, Washington Commanders defense has been much better. So I'm gonna put him down as an RB2. Middle to low end or middle to high RB2, obviously because he's Saquon and the upside that he has. But Darius Slayton, he's a wide receiver 3 for me if he can go. Daniel Bellinger, I mean, I feel like I've been the biggest proponent of playing Daniel Bellinger, mainly because I was doing it out of desperation. But he was solid, and I think, like you said, I mean, he's might be the only available target there for Daniel Jones, and we know the chemistry that they had, and how much they use the tight end in this offense. But for Washington, McLaurin, he's a wide receiver too with wide receiver 1 upside. I know I've been Team Gibson over Brian Robinson, but I'm actually going to go Brian Robinson over Gibson in this one, based on game script, them potentially leading and the Giants being susceptible to teams running the football. I think Brian Robinson has the higher upside in this game, and he's been more involved as a receiver. And the other thing is Antonio Gibson. He was on the sideline for a lot of the game last week, and then came out of it apparently dealing with a foot injury. So he's not on the injury report this week, but definitely something that gives you some cause and some concern. So I'm going to have him as an RB3, especially if Washington's not expected to be trailing in this game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it should be. Hoping. I mean, Chase Young could just hold off 1 more week to the bye. Makes sense. Hold your guy after the bye, and then let him work after.
Yeah, I mean, they have talked about that. They want Chase Young to be 100% healthy. I mean, it makes a ton of sense. They spent the number 2 overall pick on this guy, just a few seasons ago, and obviously missed all last year. And with the way that they're playing right now, he would, not saying he would be a luxury, but they're not struggling right now defensively without him. So, just like you said, let him get healthy.
Hmm.
Let's move on to the next matchup here. The 4-8 Chicago Bears, or sorry, 4-8 Green Bay Packers traveling to Chicago to take on the 3-9 Chicago Bears. This game has a 42.5-point total, where the Green Bay Packers are 3-point road favorites. This game is expected to be windy. There are 15 to 20 mile per hour winds with gusts up to 30. Uh, the for Chicago, Justin Fields seems like he's good to go, no longer dealing with that shoulder injury. Jaquan Brisker, Kyler Gordon, Larry Boom, and Trevor Simeon are all out for Chicago. For Green Bay, Devondre Campbell, he's questionable. Safety Darnell Savage, he's doubtful with a foot. Romeo Dobbs, the wide receiver, he's questionable with an ankle. And then David Bakhtiari, the left tackle, is out with an appendectomy after having an appendectomy. And then Aaron Rodgers, rather, he seems to be good to go with that rib injury, and will be expected to start in this game. I'm going to take the over here. I'm going to take Chicago to cover, Chicago to win. Aaron Rodgers,
Whew.
you no longer own
Wow.
the Bears. For for Chicago, Justin Fields, I think he's a QB1. Um, Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson this week?
I'm gonna go Justin Fields.
Yeah, I think that's where I lean as well. Fields is a the only concern with Fields is how much is pain is that shoulder injury going to cause him? Is it something that should limit his rushing ability? I mean, I'm not talking about the scrambles because I think that's just innate, but I think the quarterback design runs that they were running. Do we see how much of those do we see? So that's the only concern there. But the matchup here is great. We obviously saw what Jalen Hurts did to the same Green Bay defense last week. So you know definitely looking for that upside there. David Montgomery in a fantastic spot. I think he's an RB1 this week. Cole Kmet, no Darnell Mooney, right? He's out for the year with that ankle injury. So Cole Kmet, he's a top 5 tight end option for me this week. For the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Jones, he's an RB1. Christian Watson, a wide receiver 2. AJ Dillon, again, the matchup here is really great from a rush defensive perspective. So I think he's an RB2 territory. And then I I'm I feel like you can go in other directions instead of playing Aaron Rodgers. I know the
Oh
matchup's
yeah,
great here,
all
but
year, all year, man.
all year you could go in other directions. But again, I'm just saying it's Chicago, right? Like people are going to say, Mike White did 315 and 3 against the Chicago defense. Like Aaron Rodgers should be able to do similar things. But I'm just, between the thumb and the ribs, like again, it's going to sound crazy, but it's not. I would play Mike White instead of Aaron Rodgers in this matchup.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna still take Green Bay to cover and Green Bay to win, though. I just feel like they'll still find a way to get this done. I mean, they in the first matchup, the running game dominated, and I think that's what they're gonna lean on again. So for the Green Bay side, Aaron Jones is in a smash spot here. Definitely got some start of the week potential. He should be dominant here. AJ Dillon should also be involved. I think as a RB2 option, RB3, but some RB2 upside. Christian Watson continuing his tear. I think he's wide receiver 2 play for sure. Can't really trust Robert Tunyon or any of the other receivers, but Christian Watson I can deal with. On the Chicago side, Justin Fields QB1. No matter how the game goes, he's gonna find his way there with his legs. Uh, and then as far as the David Montgomery, I agree with you. Think Eagles dominated the running game last week. I think they almost had like 400 yards rushing. So Fields and David Montgomery should do what they got to do. And then Cole Kmet should be the kind of the main passing option out there. Coming on hot lately, should continue to be a good tight end option.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting matchup. Let's move on to this next one. First of the 4 o'clock games, 4:05 p.m. The 6-5 Seattle Seahawks travel to Los Angeles to take on the 3-8 Los Angeles Rams. This game has a 41.5 point total. I think earlier in the week I said that this game had that the Seahawks were 14-point favorites. I don't know where I got that number from. I think, yeah, I don't know. But they're 7.5 point road favorites in this game. Maybe they should be 14-point favorites.
Well, if they're at
But
home, that's 10, so that's close. Yeah, that's a big spread.
um, so for in terms of injuries, well, there is possible rain in this game, but in terms of injuries, for Los Angeles, the Matthew Stafford, sorry, is out with a neck injury. It's been called a concussion, but apparently it's a neck injury. For there are a few other guys out in this game, but I didn't really know who they were, so I don't think it really mattered. Really, for Seattle, Travis Homer, he's questionable with an illness, and they had a few other guys questionable in this game. In this matchup here, Greg, where are you leaning?
Yeah, it looked like there was just a bunch of defensive players, but I'm gonna go with the under. I'm gonna take Seattle to cover, Seattle to win. Um, on the Seattle side, it's gonna be raining. Gino, I think he's in that lower end quarterback one territory, maybe like quarterback 13, 14 on that edge. Not a huge smash up, but I think he's gonna have his opportunities. Kenneth Walker Jr. though, RB1, continuing to dominate. I think I like him here. As far as the receivers, DK Metcalf is in the smash spot here. Wide receiver ones have given it to the Rams all year, so I think he's going to find his way to a wide receiver one day. Tyler Lockett also in the solid spot here, so he's in that low end wide receiver 2 category. And Noah Fant also should be used as well. So Geno Smith should have some upside. On the Ram side, it's really tough, but who I'm looking at, my man Kyron Williams getting that usage bump every week. I think this is another week where he can. Honestly, I can make the argument for starting him in this
You
game.
gonna do it? You gonna do it?
I think
Start of the
I
week?
think I'm gonna do it. No. Start of the week. No. I'll start him. He's made starting lineups. I think for this game. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna take the under here. I'm gonna take Seattle to cover, Seattle to win. I'm with you, man. I'm on Kyron Williams train this week, man. I think he's in play as a mid RB2. Has some upside. Like he's been involved in the passing game. He's led the backfield in terms of touches and rush attempts. John Wolford is in the lineup this week. He does run a little bit, but he doesn't run as much as Bryce Perkins. So I think Kyron Williams is 100% in play as an RB2. But that's literally the only person I'm willing to play on the Rams offense for Seattle. Gino, he's a QB1. Walker's been a little touchdown dependent, but I think he's still an RB2. Just hasn't really. He's faded a little bit in terms of the explosiveness that we were seeing from him, those big explosive runs. But he's still, again, he was doing them in the beginning of the season with regularity. So it's not to say that he can't just break one of those again this week. So definitely want him in your lineup. Noah Fant, I think he's a tight end one option for me this week. I know the Rams just recently played Travis Kelce, but the matchup is pretty good, and Fant's been more involved, so definitely like that. And then DK Metcalf, he is, him and Lockett, they're both wide receiver 2s, but I give the slight edge to Metcalf to finish as that wide receiver 1 and catch that touchdown this week.
Yeah, man. Oh, the Bobby Wagner revenge game. There you go.
Bobby Wagner revenge game. I mean, I guess it'll feel good, right? Like,
Man.
he'll have like 10 tackles, but they'll lose by 10.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to this next matchup. We have the 8-3 Miami Dolphins traveling to San Fran to take on the 7-4 San Francisco 49ers. This game is probably one of the matchups of the week. It probably is the matchup of the. Well, no, I can't say that because there's you got
couple
the Chiefs game. Yeah, there's a few games. You got Mike White on TV. Like it's crazy week for football. This game has a 46.5-point total where the San Francisco 49ers are 3.5-point home favorites in this game. In terms of the weather, there's rain expected in this game, so not exciting there. But for Miami, in terms of injuries, Myles Gaskin, he's questionable with a shoulder. Teddy Bridgewater, questionable with a knee. Teron Armstead, he's doubtful with a pec injury. And then for San Francisco, Deebo Samuel, he is questionable with a quad after being limited in practice. Left tackle Trent Williams, he left practice with a back injury and he's questionable. And then obviously we know that Elijah Mitchell suffered that knee injury, the MCL sprain, and he's out for not just this game but for the next 6 to 8 weeks. In terms of the matchup here, I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna take the Miami Dolphins to cover. I'm gonna take the Miami Dolphins to win. Miami's rolling right now. Mike McDaniel. He's definitely a great coach so far this year in year one. Definitely an intriguing personality. I don't know if you've seen all his press
Oh yeah,
conferences, Greg.
he's so
Yeah,
monotone. It's crazy, man. It's
but
ridiculous. The content is amazing. The delivery is just so crazy. He has like that Belichick delivery, but the content is amazing.
Oh man, my favorite one was him telling Justin Fields to stop running, and
Yeah,
he was
like
like,
just stop. Like
"Just
why?
stop running,"
And he
and he
didn't.
wouldn't
Yeah,
listen.
he wouldn't listen. That's exactly how he says it though.
It's like he just wouldn't take the
He
coaching, and
just
it was
wouldn't listen.
frustrating.
He sounds very serious all the time.
uh yeah, no, he's great. But so I will take for Miami, Tyreek Hill. It's a tough matchup on paper, but he's a wide receiver one. They're going to find ways to get him the football and be productive. Waddle, he's a wide receiver two. Tua, he's a QB2. He's probably the one I'm most concerned about, just in terms of if there's ways they can manufacture touches for Hill and Waddle, but Tua has been so money that like there's no reason to I think bench him unless you have much better options. Um, Russell Wilson, Jeff Wilson, and Raheem Mostert, they are RB. Have them both as RB3s in a revenge game. It's a revenge game for both of them, but
Yes.
I think whoever gets that those touchdowns, which probably would make me lean Wilson, would finish as the RB2 here. And then for San Francisco, CMC, he's an RB2, dealing with the knee injury. The touches haven't really been what you would like to see. Uh, Jimmy G, he's a high end QB2. George Kittle, I think, is a top 3 option this week. Has a fantastic matchup here against Miami. And then Ayuk is a wide receiver 3. Deebo Samuel being limited, that kind of scares me. But I would put him down as a wide receiver 3 flex option with Ayuk having the advantage.
Yeah, I think this probably matchup of the week because I think right now Miami's probably one of the best offenses in the league, and you got San Fran being probably the best defense in the league right now. So I do definitely very intrigued by this. I'm gonna take the over though. I'm gonna take Miami to cover, but I'm gonna take San Fran to win. It's gonna be real tight. I think field goal game. On Miami side, do like to you're not benching him. I think just he's proven throughout the year he's been the breakout that we thought he would be. You continue to play him as I think a lower end QB1. Uh, Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert, both RB low end RB2s. I think Jeff Wilson kind of has a slight edge if they're both healthy and playing. Tyreek Hill, you're starting him. Dredden Waddle, you're starting him. Strong wide receiver twos, both have wide receiver one upside. Um, on the San Fran side, I do really like Jimmy G's matchup a lot. I think he can finish as a QB1. I think it's going to be a little more back and forth. He's going to be forced to throw it a little bit more. And then CMC banged up. He's I agree with you. RB2, Brandon Ayuk, and the receivers. George Kittle I think is one as far as a pass catcher. I think he's in a smash spot here. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel though both wide receiver twos. One of them to kind of step up here. Deebo Samuel being a little banged up. I think I give the edge to Ayuk in this one. But yeah, it should be a really really good game. The mentor versus the mentee, man.
Yeah, man. Kyle Shanahan and
Creating his
Mike
own tree now.
McDaniel. And yeah, man. He's got McDaniel and Saleh and
Wow.
McVet. So yeah, and Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. So
Yeah,
yeah, Shanahan
nice trade.
Shanahan has a nice little tree right there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's move on to this next matchup. Always intriguing when the LA Chargers are involved.
Oh yeah,
The 6-5 LA Chargers traveling to Las Vegas to take on the 4-7 Las Vegas Raiders. This game has a 50.5 point total, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, and the Los Angeles Chargers are 1.5 point road favorites in this one. Weather's expected to be okay in this game. In terms of injuries for the Chargers, wide receiver Mike Williams, he's out dealing with that ankle injury. Loss for the Las Vegas Raiders. Josh Jacobs is questionable with a calf, as is Brandon Bolden. They have a few other questionable on both sides, for these teams, or a few others questionable for both teams here. In terms of this matchup, Greg, where do you lean?
I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take the Chargers to cover, Chargers to win. I think it's similar to that Chargers Cardinals game last week. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be back and forth. It's gonna be crazy. I think Justin Herbert should dominate in this game. Best matchup he has probably all year. Should be continue to I mean not continue but have a great game here. Austin Eckler, RB1, top 3 play. The receivers, Keenan Allen should help out Justin Herbert as I think a wide receiver one in this matchup. Josh Palmer should be involved as a flex. DeAndre Carter should also be involved, I think, as a deep league flex as well. Not, well over on Gerald Everett. It's over. We're just moving to the receivers. On the Vegas side, Josh Jacobs smash by here. He's also in RB1, top 3 play, top 5 play. Devonta Adams, wide receiver one. Matt Collins, I think, has intrigue here as a flex. I think, we makes arguments for playing Derek Carr as a streaming option in this one. And yeah, I think should be definitely back and forth. A wild game. Comes down to the last play. High scoring game.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely should be a wild game. I will take the under, though. I'll take the Chargers to cover, the Chargers to win. For the Chargers side, Justin Herbert, he's a QB1. Austin Eckler, top 3 option at the position. Keenan Allen, definite wide receiver 1. Josh Palmer, and has wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside. DeAndre Carter, have him down as wide receiver 3 flex option. And then for Las Vegas, Josh Jacobs, he's an RB1. Devontae Adams, a wide receiver 1. Derek Carr has QB1 upside. Just given the matchup and the nature of this, back and forth nature of this game potentially. I'm out on Gerald Everett. You could probably convince me to play Foster Moreau, but there are so many other tight ends that I would prefer to play. And Matt Collins, has some intrigue as like a wide receiver 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Let's move on to probably is going to be the most interesting matchup and the one that people tune into, an AFC Championship rematch. The 9-2 Kansas City Chiefs travel to Cincinnati to take on the 7-4 Cincinnati Bengals. This game has a 52.5 point total, where the Kansas City Chiefs are 2.5 point road favorites in this one. For Cincy, Joe Mixon is questionable. He's in concussion protocol still. Wide receiver Jamar Chase, he's questionable with a hip. Linebacker Logan Wilson, he is questionable with an illness. And gonna have to pull up the Kansas City injury report because for whatever reason I did not take notes down on it. But just looking through quickly, Kadarius Toney, he's out with the hamstring. What do you know? Surprise, surprise. Safety Deion Bush, he is questionable. I guess when the Kansas City Chiefs made that trade for Kadarius Toney, they didn't know about the clause in his contract that he's contractually obligated to be on the injury report and potentially miss games.
For the hamstring, though, specifically.
For the hamstring, specifically.
Yeah.
In terms of this game here, I see a wild one. I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take Cincy to cover 2.5. I'm going to take the Chiefs to win, though. For Cincinnati, T. Higgins, he's a top 3 option at the position. Joe Burrow, he's a high-end QB1. Jamar Chase, I think you got to downgrade him a little bit coming off the injury. But he is wide receiver one upside. So I'm going to put him out there, rank him as a wide receiver two. But I feel like there's no way he's not going to be in your lineup. Joe Mixon, he's an RB1 if he can go. If not, then, P. Ryan, obviously, he's been doing a tremendous job filling in his absence. So, he'll definitely be in play. And then for Kansas City, Mahomes is a QB1. Travis Kelsey, he's probably the tight end one. McKinnon and Pacheco are running back threes potentially, and then Juju Smith-Schuster, he did not get the did not play the snaps that I thought he would in his first game coming off the concussion, but expected to get more snaps in this game potentially, and so I think he's a wide receiver two with wide receiver one upside going into this matchup.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the over as well. I'm gonna take the Chiefs to cover. I'm gonna take the Chiefs to win. Yeah, it's gonna be definitely a tough one, but I think that edge with Kansas City's D line gets to Joe Burrow when it matters most. But on the Kansas City side, Patty, QB1, Isaiah Pacheco, getting more momentum. I think he's RB2 more for me. I think he's gonna be nice in this backfield. Travis Kelsey, main pass catcher, tight end one option, doesn't even matter who he's playing. As far as the complimentary receiver though, yeah, Juju should step up. Hopefully, waiting for that Sky Moore game. I mean, literally every rookie receiver I think we talked about this year has come through and had their game except him. So maybe is this one a little kind of a primetime game. You're probably gonna have Tony Romo on the call and Jim Nantz, so should be exciting. And then on Cincinnati side, Joe Burrow should dominate as well. No Joe Mixon. So yeah, Samaje P. Ryan continues to play him as a low end RB1 with his usage. T. Higgins should dominate as well, wide receiver one. And if Jamar Chase is back, not even considering playing Tyler Boyd. I mean, he was struggling to begin with, but Jamar Chase, you're playing him, you're starting him as well, and Hayden Hurst is a streaming option at tight end.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We do have a question from the Joker. Ask David Montgomery, Rashad White, Jamal Williams, or Jeff Wilson, full PPR. Pick one. Thank you guys. Greg, I will kick this one to you first.
Full point PPR. I think I'm gonna go with Dave Montgomery.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. Dale Montgomery. I think he's a top 10 option this week. The matchup's fantastic against Green Bay. There's no Khalil Herbert. We talked about Justin Fields being banged up, so maybe that means less quarterback design runs, which means more opportunities for Dave Montgomery. I think it's fantastic. And based on your profile pic on your YouTube there, Joker, seems like you're a Bears fan, so might as well ride your guy.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move on through the matchups. The next matchup here, Sunday Night Football. Can't believe we got to watch the Colts again in prime time, back-to-back weeks here. But the 4-6-1 Indianapolis Colts traveled to Dallas to take on the 8-3 Dallas Cowboys. This game has a 43.5 point total. The Dallas Cowboys are 10.5 point home favorites in this one. This game is played in a dome. In terms of the injuries for Dallas, linebacker Anthony Barr, he's questionable with a hamstring. Jerron Kearse, the safety, is questionable with a shoulder. Trayvon Diggs and Michael Gallup both popped up with an illness. They're questionable, both expected to play. However, Quentin Bohanna for Indianapolis, Quentin Bohanna is questionable. Quentin Bohanna plays for the Cowboys. But for Indy, Kenny Moore, the cornerback, slot corner there for Indy, he's out with the shin. That's a huge loss. He's one of the Colts' better players. Tight end Jelani Woods, who had a breakout game on Monday Night Football with 8 catches for 98 receiving yards. He's questionable in this game with a shoulder and a quad. And then offensive tackle Braden Smith is out for Indy. Definitely not great news there for Matt Ryan. Greg, where do you lean with this game here?
Taking the under, taking Dallas to cover, Dallas to win. Yeah, on Dallas side, I think they're gonna rely on the running game. Dak is no more QB2, high in QB2. Tony Pollard, I think, is a strong RB2. Zeke being, more in that lower in RB2 category. As far as the receivers, CeeDee Lamb, you're starting him as a strong wide receiver too. Michael Gallup banged up, but I think he's got some flex intrigue. And Dalton Schultz, the second pass catcher, I think after CeeDee Lamb, you're playing him as a tight end one option. On Indy side, JT playing him, for sure as a low end RB1. Michael Pittman does have a really good matchup here. So I think he's still been producing even though he's only got 2 touchdowns on the year. I think he's in wide receiver 2 territory. And I was ready to be ready to play Jelani Woods. I was very intrigued by him as a streaming tight end. If he's able to go, I think he's in that category, but he might not be able to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under here. I'm going to take Dallas to cover. I'm going to take Dallas to win. In terms of the fantasy matchups for Dallas, I think CeeDee Lamb's a wide receiver 1. They move him all around the formation, especially with Kenny Moore being out. I think that's huge because he does play a decent amount in the slot. Tony Pollard and Zeke, I think they're both RB2s with RB1 upside. Zeke in the last game had 16 rush attempts. Tony Pollard had 18 rush attempts against the Giants. So if they go to the similar formula like that, as being 10.5-point favorites, I think they both have RB1 upside. Michael Gallup, he's a wide receiver 3. Dak Prescott, he's a QB2. He's been a little underwhelming on the year. It's kind of crazy because, the offense around him has been so good, and it's, he's just been a QB2 like every week. Dalton Schultz, he's a tight end 1 option. I agree. He's the next pass catcher that you want after CeeDee Lamb. And then for Indianapolis, Jonathan Taylor, it's definitely a tough spot to be in, 10.5-point dog. But he's JT. He's got RB1 upside. He's healthy. Michael Pittman Jr., he's a wide receiver 2 for me, and Paris Campbell, a wide receiver 3.
Yep.
Going to be a tough day for Matt Ryan for sure.
Oh yeah. He might not finish it.
No, he might not. For Tampa Bay, for Monday Night Football, we got the 4-8 New Orleans Saints traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the 5-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This game has a 40-point total where the Buccaneers are 3.5-point home favorites in this one. Greg, in this matchup, well, in terms of injuries, rather, for New Orleans, Juwan Johnson been a DNP with an ankle injury, so he's questionable. Jarvis Landry, he's been limited with an ankle. Marshawn Lattimore, he's questionable, having been dealt with an injury, so that's kept him out for a pretty decent amount of time. And then for Atlanta, Russell Gage, he's returned to practice. He's questionable with a knee. Cam Brate was a DNP on Friday with an illness. So that's something to monitor there because then, we know that we can activate Cade Otton potentially if Cam Brate misses time. But in terms of this game here, I think Leonard Fournette actually did return to full practices with that hip injury. So seems like he's going to play in this game here for New Orleans. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take New Orleans to cover 3.5. But I'm going to take Tampa Bay to win this game. I'm not expecting a lot here, but Chris Olave, wide receiver 2, Kamara, he's an RB2 for Tampa Bay. Chris Godwin, a wide receiver 2, Tom Brady, a QB2, Rashad White, I have him down as an RB2, Leonard Fournette, his first game back, I think he's going to be an RB3, and then Mike Evans, he's been so disappointing, but
his day depends on one person playing, man. That's all I know. If Marshawn
plays, yeah, that's Marshawn's probably trying to get back for this game.
Yeah, I know he is, yo.
Oh, man. He's a wide receiver 3 though for me. He's been underwhelming as well. But like you said, if Marshawn Lattimore plays, but if you're Marshawn, like at that point, like, is it about the beef or you like, I got to go shut down Chris Godwin? Like,
oh, nah, it's about the beef for him. I think that's the last game. They didn't even make it 2 quarters. I feel like they hate each other.
Yeah, Mike Evans got ejected for body slamming him. Yeah. Because Tom Brady put a hit on Marshawn Lattimore, evidently.
Oh, man.
Greg, where are you leaning with this game?
Yeah, I'm going to take the under as well. I'm going to take Tampa to cover and Tampa to win. It's going to be ugly for sure. Both teams still fighting for that division though. So it's gonna be tough. On the New side, Alvin Kamara, RB2. Yeah, Chris Olave also, RB2. Um, wide receiver two as well. That's really about it. I mean, maybe you could play Jarvis Landry in a really deep league if he's available. On Tampa side, Leonard Fournette, if he's playing, he's a RB2, low end RB2. Chris Godwin, I think he's got probably the highest upside in this matchup of all the players. He's a wide receiver too, getting some chemistry with Tom Brady, and as well. And then yeah, Mike Evans is, if Marshawn Lattimore is playing, I think that definitely gives him a downgrade to his day. But if not, I think he can give you a top 30 day.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Greg, let's move on to that money time. Those starts of the week,
Yes,
man. Let's
sir.
get to it. Greg, why don't you start your quarterback start of the week this week?
Gotta go with the Justin Herbert, going against Las Vegas. We said it's going to be a crazy high scoring game. I think he's going to be the main beneficiary of this. Just historically against the Raiders, he's killed them, averaging 305 yards or close to 3 touchdowns per game. So yeah, he should dominate in this one. Last game he played against him, he played very well. This is a smash spot for him. He's going to dominate.
I like that one, man. My quarterback start of the week, I think I alluded to it earlier in the week. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence, though, going up against Detroit. Trevor's been balling over the last 4 weeks of quarterbacks who started at least 2 games. Because it wouldn't be fair to compare anybody to Mike White. But he's eighth in points per game at almost 21 points per game. And the matchup here is as juicy as it gets, going up against Detroit, who's allowed the most fantasy points to quarterbacks over their last 4 matchups. I loved Trevor Lawrence coming into the year. He was my quarterback sleeper, and he's been returning that value, uh, you know, tremendously. And I think we haven't seen his best week yet, right? I think that comes this week. And he's actually my top ranked quarterback on the week. I'd play him ahead of the Lamar Jacksons, ahead of maybe not Jalen Hurts because of it's Jalen Hurts, but projection wise, he came out as my top ranked quarterback on the week.
Yeah, gotta love that. Got Detroit, man. You should can do that. Destroy them, yeah.
Yeah, man, and it seems like you're trying to attack Detroit a different way, Greg. What's your running back start of the week this week?
Yeah, no, I'm going with Travis Etienne, going against the Detroit Lions, coming off a couple of his probably worst weeks of the season, but I think he bounces back here in this matchup where it should be high scoring, should be back and forth. He gets back to those couple stretches where he had 3 straight 100-yard games, and when he had 4 straight over 70 yards rushing. So he should be out there able to play in a matchup with Detroit. Definitely a weaker passing out defense than rushing, but I think with his pass catching ability as well, he should be involved.
I have no idea what this graphic is. It just popped up, but I guess Greg, you got to. I guess you got to speak
man.
to it.
Kyrie Ways, man. This is the week, man. The usage has been going up every week. I've been saying it in the waiver wire pod every week. He's got to be used, man, in this RB2 day. But he's getting an end zone. He's getting finishes a low on RB1. Let's go.
So there you go. Greg's other running back start of the week, Kyron Williams. My running back start of the week. I'm going deep in the bag here. Zonovan Bam Knight versus Minnesota. Again, like I said, going deep in the bag. But if you went ahead and spent up a little bit on Bam Knight, then I think it should pay off this week. Michael Carter unlikely to play this weekend. Knight showed well on 17 opportunities in the game against Chicago. Minnesota is a great matchup. They've allowed the 4th most PPR points to the running back position over their last 4 matchups. And Knight, once again, should lead the Jets in opportunities. James Robinson probably going to be active for this game, but I think Knight was up ahead of James Robinson in the last week's matchup because they definitely preferred him. So I think that's going to be the case this week as Knight leads the Jets backfield and once again a good matchup here.
Yeah, gotta love it. Everyone around Mike White gets the juice. Let's go.
Let's go, man. High tides raise all boats. Greg, your wide receiver start of the week. Who you got?
Going with Amari Cooper, going against Houston. The revenge game for Deshaun should help Amari Cooper the most. I think the quarterback transition should be seamless. Shouldn't matter. He was already getting a high target number, one of the highest for a wide receiver. got an excellent matchup here going against Houston. Back-to-back games with 12 targets. So he should be the top guy for Deshaun Watson as well. They start this chemistry off right away. I think, yeah, it should be a dominant matchup for him.
Yeah, I agree. Amari Cooper has been balling this year. My wide receiver start of the week, staying with the attachment to Mike White here, going with Garrett Wilson up against Minnesota in what I think should be a high scoring game. Minnesota has been beat up by outside receivers. They've allowed the third most PPR points to the wide receiver position over their last 4 games. Again, he gets that quarterback upgrade with Mike White. Garrett Wilson on the season averages 77 receiving yards per game in the 4 games he's played with a quarterback who isn't Zach Wilson. That's 25 more receiving yards per game than the 6 games that he's played with Zach Wilson this year. Garrett Wilson, fantastic matchup. Start him up this week. And remember, when you see him out there looking on the same field as Justin Jefferson, just remember who told you that he reminded you of Justin Jefferson. Reminded me of Justin Jefferson. But yeah,
Yes,
you
sir.
get what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I love it.
Greg, your tight end start of the week this week. What do you got?
Going with George Kittle here, going against Miami. I mean, the matchup is excellent for him. And, this is, I think, a spot here where you realize why you drafted a guy like George Kittle early. He's healthy, first of all, which is great. You've been pretty healthy since the beginning of the season. But, the usage, that hasn't been there. Been a couple of weeks where he's got over 80 yards receiving. But I think this is the week where he gets back to that number, gets close to, 10 receptions. And continues to be a force. And the touchdown stretches, has been there for him the last couple of games. So I think he gets back to it here.
Definitely, man. This is a fantastic matchup for Kittle this week. I'm going with Noah Fant against Los Angeles, going up against the Rams. Now, this one feels a little bit risky, but the matchup makes sense. The Rams have allowed the third most PPR points to the tight end position over their last 4 matchups. But Fant has also been solid, and he's had at least 3 catches for 34 yards in his last 3 games. Actually did that twice. He's averaging almost 15 yards per reception during that span. And again, the Rams are at the point where I think they've kind of checked out. So, we can target them. I don't know if I mentioned it in the injury report, but Aaron Donald is not playing in that game. So that means even more time there and less pressure for Geno Smith as he finds his receivers down the field.
Yeah, guy like Noah Fant here. I think, Rams have been just bad in secondary all year. So I think this continue to see here.
Yeah, for sure. Let's jump into that. Some play everybody's favorite game. Some get money here.
Let's go.
Greg, you have the first pick this week in an odd week. You have tied it up after the Thanksgiving
Came
match.
back. Yes, sir.
It is now 6-6. Pressure's on, Greg. What do you got for your first pick this week?
At my first pick, I'm gonna take Nick Chubb at running back, 9,600. I'm spending the change here for him. I think it's worth it.
I like that. My first pick, I'm going to take Amon-Ra St. Brown. As I said, I believe he could be the number 1 wide receiver on the week. And so I'm going to take him here as my first pick, $8,000.
Love it, love it. My second pick, I think, allows me to have some of these players. Got to go Mike White here, at 6,900 at the quarterback position. Still good value. I think he's gonna be a good spot here. Give me some points.
No, definitely, man. I like that. I'm not gonna lie, he was definitely 100% in my lineup. So
that's why I took him second.
Yep, I figured as much. With my first wide receiver or my second wide receiver, I'm gonna go with Garrett Wilson, 6,600. Little leverage play there on your Mike White.
Mm-hmm. True. At my second running back, I'm gonna take DeAndre Swift, 6,400, going against Jacksonville. Definitely like the matchup.
I like that one as well. In my flex, I'm gonna go with T. Higgins, 8,300, going up against KC. I was surprised you didn't take him.
I know. I mean,
Uh,
he's in my lineup for sure. He's been in my lineup for like 5 straight weeks. I feel like. Oh man. Oh man, that's tough. That's tough. All right. Well, I'm gonna just pivot to AJ Brown now at 8,100
that
as
was
my
also my pivot.
wide receiver one.
I was like, if T Higgins goes, I'll just pivot down to
Yeah,
AJ Brown.
yeah. There we go.
Okay. As I guess technically my fourth wide receiver because I put Higgins in the flex. I'm going with Christian Kirk, 7,500 going up against Detroit.
Love that. Love that. I'm gonna go with DK Metcalf as my second receiver, 7,600 going against the Rams.
Nice. As my first running back, I'm gonna take Zonovan Knight, 5,800 going up against Minnesota. My running back start of the week.
At my tight end position, I'm gonna take Pat Freiermuth, 5,900 going against Atlanta.
Okay. As my second running back, I'm going to take David Montgomery, 7,000 going up against Green Bay.
At my flex, I'm gonna take another tight end. My tight end start of the week. I'm gonna take George Kittle, slot him in there, 6,200.
Okay. As my defense, I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans, 3,400 going up against Philadelphia.
Like that. I'm gonna go with my third receiver, Chris Moore, 5,200, real cheap, good value though against Cleveland.
As my tight end, I'm going to go with TJ Hawkinson, 6,400 going up against the New York Jets.
And at my defense, I'm gonna take the Washington Commanders, 4,100 going against the New York Giants.
And my final pick, my quarterback stream of the week, I'm going with Jared Goff, 6,800 going up against Jacksonville.
There you go. Get your stack, yo. There you go. Mon-Ra.
Yeah, for sure. Greg, why don't you read out your roster for the people?
Got Mike White at quarterback, 6,900. Nick Chubb, 9,600 at the RB1 position. DeAndre Swift, 6,400. AJ Brown, 8,100. DK Metcalf, 7,600. Chris Moore, wide receiver 3 at 5,200. Pat Freiermuth, 5,900 at the tight end position. George Kittle at my flex position at 6,200. And the Washington Commanders, 4,100 at the defense. $0 left.
For me, I got Jared Goff, my stream of the week. For a quarterback, 6,800 going up against Detroit. At running back, I got my running back start of the week, Zonovan Knight, 5,800. As my second running back, I've got David Montgomery, 7,000 going up against Green Bay. As my wide receiver, my first wide receiver, I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8,000. As my second wide receiver, I've got Christian Kirk going up against Detroit, 7,500. As my third wide receiver, I have Garrett Wilson, my wide receiver start of the week, at 6,600 going up against Minnesota. And as my at tight end, I've got TJ Hawkinson, the Minnesota Vikings going up against the New York Jets at 6,400. In my flex, I have wide receiver T. Higgins going up against Kansas City, 8,300. And then I have the Tennessee Titans defense, 3,400 going up against Philadelphia. I've got 200 whole dollars left.
Love it. I mean, looking like the data is looking like you're probably gonna win this week. No one's gonna be. It's been very up and down.
T. Higgins is the winning piece apparently.
He is apparently T. Higgins is the winning piece.
All right, let's close this one out. Hopefully, you guys all have a fantastic weekend. Set out for us, and yeah, man, good luck getting into clinching those divisions or those playoffs or the bye week or whatever it is you need to do. Get it done. We have faith in you. But until next time, have a good one, everybody, and we're out of here. Peace.
Yeah.